This video is about using the grounded theory to analyze qualitative data. This is an example of how your data may look like. These are my handwritten notes describing the use of technology at Expo 2020. But these could be your notes taken during the interviews. And maybe you will add more notes right after each interview, or maybe at least some of your interviewees allowed you to record the interview, and you are listening to the audio recordings and taking notes. How do we analyze this data? Remember how we have our research questions that are logically flowing from what we already know from the literature review? In the case of our Expo 2020 example, this is a rather long list of our research questions. It is likely that you have about 3 research questions. Or maybe you have only one research question asking about the communication strategies used by the Emirati female leaders when they argue their opinion. Our goal is now to answer the research questions, however many of of them we have. There are several computer programs, such as Atlas.ti and NVivo, that help us analyze the data. For example, NVivo was used by Saral Hash and Constance van Horn in their 2013 paper about the development of leadership skills in young Emirati women. I prefer analyzing data on paper using color coding. While we are coding, we also tend to write several memos that are more like first drafts of our findings section. I do both handwritten and typed up memos. We start reading our data with the goal of answering our research questions. In the Expo 2020 example, I'm kind of already color coding my data by country because I like using ink in different color. But in the case of my study, I will also assign a color for each of my research questions and highlight the text in that color. Or we can add dot stickers to signal the information that addresses the topic of your research question. Or we can use dot stickers for categories we find in our data. Once we have decided on the colors, we start the process of coding according to the grounded theory. From the grounded theory reading, we know that coding has 3 strategies: open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. At the first stage, at the stage of open coding, we read through the text of our data looking for the answer to the first research question. We also take notes about how, in our Expo 2020 case, individual cases of technology use are similar or different from each other. In the case of Emirati female leaders, we can look for communication strategies that are similar to each other and unite them into a group of communication strategies. I'd probably use a colorful pen to give tentative names to each case of a communication strategy. At the stage of axial coding, we look for subcategories within the initial categories, and we also look for the conditions of when these subcategories seem to happen. Maybe we will find that 2 subcategories of communication strategies seem to be used in competitive environments, and a third subcategory is used in more friendly conditions. Or maybe the kind of a strategy depends on co-workers who are the target audience of the communication. Are they Emirati nationals or experts? Are they men or women? If you are using the dot stickers, you can overlap the stickers when the themes overlap. For example, when a subcategory of communication strategies overlaps with a specific communication circumstance. Maybe this yellow communication strategy is overlapping with blue communication situations, which represent communication with men. The third stage of coding following the grounded theory is the stage of selective coding. At the stage of selective coding, we read through the data and through our notes and ask ourselves the questions from the reading on page 424. What is the main idea presented by this research? If I had to describe my findings in a few sentences, what would I say? What do my categories seem to be about? And how can I explain the variations I see in the categories? At this stage, we aim at being more abstract to make our theory be applicable to similar situations. Sometimes the outcome of our analysis is a theory, such as the leader apprenticeship framework we see in the chapter by Sarah Al-Hash and Constance Van Horn. Please note that the authors report the categories as 3 main themes, with examples of each as bullet points. When we get enough resources, we can test this theory with a survey. And this brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching.